Beneath the blinding, icy expanse of the Arctic, where purity and desolation meet, lurks a grim tableau that defies the pristine myth of the polar bear's frozen domain. Imagine a creature emblematic of strength and solitude, now grotesquely marred by a swelling horror. A wound festering with a serpentine infestation that twists between living flesh and invasive dread. This is no mere injury. It is a living nightmare of writhing, slimy bodies burrowing into the bear's once majestic pelt, corrupting it with pulsating menace, and a stench that shreds through the cold, clean air. The viewer is drawn close, forced to confront a stark and revolting spectacle where fur parts to reveal a quivering ecosystem of snakes. Creatures they don't belong here, yet thrive in this perverse alliance. One can almost hear the wet, sickening slither, and feel the horrifying crawl beneath brittle skin as the infection deepens, a grotesque paradox of predator and parasite entwined in macabre coexistence. The snake infestation is not a result of myth or mutation, but a brutal byproduct of changing climates and disrupted habitats. These serpents, typically confined to warmer regions, have found a chilling refuge in the vulnerable wounds of polar bears, an unholy symbiosis born of environmental collapse. The snakes embed themselves in lesions caused by physical trauma or frostbite, feeding on the decaying tissue while releasing toxins that prevent healing, turning the wounds into festering nests. This infestation weakens the bear, impairs its movement, and humiliates its formidable image. Beneath the shimmering cloak of the African savanna, where beauty and brutality intertwine in a dance as old as time, lies a tale so grim it's almost unbearable to witness. This is no ordinary story of the leopard, the stealthy sovereign of the shadows. It is the story of a monstrous horror afflicting one such majestic creature, a leprous wound amongst its sleek golden fur, festering and grotesque. Imagine, if you will, the rippling muscles of this apex predator distorted by a nest of insects, a pulsating hive of bees nestled perilously in its flesh, turning the very essence of life into a chamber of torment. The scene is macabre. The iridescent sheen of honeycomb gleams sickly amidst the fur, coating the wound's edges, where angry, swollen flesh meets the natives of this unsettling citadel. The air buzzes not with freedom, but with menace. Hundreds, no thousands, of bee soldiers protecting their stolen kingdom, their minuscule bodies swarming with a chaotic, incessant hum that pierces the quiet patience of the wild. This isn't just an injury, it's a living nightmare locked in biological warfare. The leopard's struggle to dislodge what should never have taken root, a foreign hive infesting and corrupting its skin. The hive's architecture is darkly fascinating, an organic fortress of honey, wax, and secretions built relentlessly within a poor animal's flesh, traversing tendons and sinew. The leopard's body, normally a temple of grace and raw power, now becomes a colony's prison, filled with sharp stingers that glint ominously in the sunlight. The bees, once emblematic of sweetness and life through pollination, become grotesque parasites, their survival mission twisted into brutality. This breakdown of natural roles is unsettling. Nature's cooperative energy turns sour, a parasitic siege dressed in the delicate guise of honeycomb. Bee infestation on a leopard is not merely a physical anomaly, but a biological paradox. Bees, creatures of order and collective purpose, usually thrive in symbiosis with flowers and crops. But here, they have become hostile invaders. Their communal instincts warped into a ruthless occupation. Their stingers are death dealers, their mandibles tear flesh. And all the while, the hive's interior stews with fermentation, blindness-inducing mold spores, and microbial colonies exploiting the macerated tissue of the animal. The victim, confined by pain, the weight of infection and persistent stings, faces a slow, torturous decline. The wound's edges are moist with pus and blood, the skin around it taut with inflammation, home to both buzzing predators and opportunistic flesh-eating bacteria. The leopard's immune system races to contain the swarm, but the relentless onslaught, combined with the toxic chemical cocktail of venom and bacteria, drives the beast closer to death's creeping shadow. It's a perverse reminder that survival in nature isn't always glorious. It can be an excruciating trial, a morbid contest of resilience and decay. The bee's hive isn't just a parasite's lair. It is a symbol of nature's darkest balance, where suffering becomes a currency in the grand economy of life. This leprous wound, this grotesque masterpiece of biological treachery, is a testament to the brutal coexistence that defines the wild. It whispers truths about disease, infection, and the relentless march of life forms competing in a world without mercy. But beneath the horror lies a peculiar insight. The hive itself, gleaming and alive, represents the same communal tenacity that built civilizations and harnessed nature's bounty for survival. Dive deeper into the infestation, and the story darkens further. The bees that commandeered the leopard's wound are an extraordinary example of opportunism. Realistically, they are not targeting the leopard out of malice, but following a primitive instinct survival and colonization. When an animal like a leopard carries an open, necrotic wound, the smell of rotting flesh acts as a beacon to scavengers and decomposers. Bees, attracted especially to the sweetness of the exposed fluids, find not flowers but a body ripe for invasion. Their wax-building duties, normally an artful, delicate process, become grotesquely perverted, layering the wound like sinister armor. This is an ecological niche few expect. A hive built not in tree hollows or abandoned nests, but embedded in a living, breathing predator. The microscopic world inside this hive is a hellish milieu. Maggots thriving on infection, fungi creeping into tissue crevices, and bacterial colonies turning living cells into... In the endless expanse of the African wilderness, where the golden grass sways and predators lurk in the shadows, an astonishing and grotesque spectacle awaits the intrepid eye. A white lion, a rare and ghostly creature, bearing upon its flank wounds so horrid it seems ripped from the pages of a nightmare. But this is no ordinary injury. Nestled within the flesh is a monstrous hive of bees, a grotesque infestation that transforms the noble beast into a living monument of decay and pestilence. This wound, shredded flesh woven crudely with waxen cells and buzzing with unrelenting life, seems almost unnatural. The white lion, whose alabaster fur is typically a symbol of purity and rarity, is here defiled by a pulsing hive of stingers and venom. The hive's swarming occupants delve into the open flesh, living parasitically, feeding off the lion's blood, while their waxy fortress grows ever larger and more grotesque against the pale skin. Every throb of the lion's heartbeat pulses through a tangled web of sinew and honeycomb, producing a sickly symphony of pain mixed with the faint, sickly sweet smell of honey. The wound looks like a rotting door to some ancient, cursed underworld, a black hole of suffering covered with bees that sting relentlessly in defense. How does such a phenomenon come to be? Bee infestation on a large carnivore like this, especially a white lion, is as rare as it is tragic. Wild honeybees, drawn by the lion's injured blood, have colonized the open wound as if it were an injured tree trunk or the hollow of a dead branch. These bees, possessing no consciousness of the agony they cause, act purely on instinct to rebuild and perpetuate their colony. The hive grows through the wound, turning flesh into a living, breathing hive matrix, their tiny legs brushing fur and flesh with painstaking efficiency. The hive is a grotesque hybrid of life and death, where the boundaries between host and parasite dissolve in a buzz of activity. The white lion, normally an apex predator, becomes a grotesque host, trapped in a parasitic symbiosis that is both fascinating and horrifying. The bees defend their colony ruthlessly, swarming anyone in proximity with lethal and in the relentless pulse of the African wilderness, where life and death dance with ruthless precision. There exists a silent horror, rarely witnessed by human eyes, a white lion, marred by a grotesque wound festering with an infestation so appalling it challenges the very notions of nature's balance. This is no mere injury. It is a living hive of stinging insects, an unspeakable fusion of predator and parasitic torment. The lion, a symbol of strength and regality, now staggers under the burden of a wound transformed into a buzzing prison, a hive, grotesque and swollen, pulsating with a sickly yellow and black chorus of bees. The sight arrests the breath, an open canal of oozing flesh, crusted with dried blood and honey-like secretions, throbbing with life. Bees crawl in maddening numbers, their glistening bodies slick with nectar and venom, working tirelessly as if tending to a monstrous nursery. This is not just a wound, it is a haven of chaos, a place where biology twists into an almost allegorical nightmare of coexistence and suffering. The bees, normally masters of order and efficiency, have made this injury their home, their combs stretching like grotesque honeycombs within living tissue, their waxy tunnels weaving a maze of decay and suffering. To understand this macabre scene, we must venture into the dark biology of bee infestations among large mammals, a phenomenon as rare as it is morbid. When a lion suffers a deep wound, it becomes an open invitation to opportunistic scavengers of the insect world. Female worker bees, guided by an instinct honed in nature's crucible, detect sugars and fluids oozing from the injury. They swarm, drawn by the scent of decay and the sweet promise of nourishment. Once the hive is established, the infestation escalates. The bees build waxy cells not on branches or caves, but on fragile, torn flesh, cementing themselves as unwilling partners in the lion's agony. The hive produces not just honey, but a taunt in the darkest corners of a forgotten landscape, where nature's raw brutality unfolds without mercy. A harrowing scene emerges: a dog, once lively and full of spirit, now lying motionless, its body a grotesque canvas of despair. The wound, a macabre spectacle, is not merely a tear in flesh, but a festering abyss where countless serpents have taken root. This is not an ordinary injury. It is a living infestation, a carnivorous invasion of scales and fangs that both horrifies and fascinates in its ruthless efficiency. The sight pulls you in, repulsed yet strangely compelled, a chilling testament to the unforgiving cycles of the wild. This dog's injury is a gaping cavity, raw and pulsating, where the skin has been shredded as though by 1,000 tiny knives. It is here that the serpents have embedded themselves, threading their slender bodies through the torn muscle and exposed sinew. The wound emits a pungent odor, a mixture of decay, bodily fluids, and the unmistakable musk of reptilian skin. Each writhing snake is a living parasite, siphoning nourishment from the dog's blood and tissue, transforming this site into a grotesque ecosystem of survival and death. The scales glisten wetly in the dim light, their movements both hypnotic and sinister as they undulate with cold, deliberate grace. As we observe this unsettling bond, a deeper, more chilling reality comes into focus. Snake infestation is not merely a freak accident, but a symptom of a complex interplay between predator, victim, and environment. The serpents in this wound are often species known for their opportunistic behavior, exploiting weakness and injury in mammals to carve out a niche in the ecosystem. This phenomenon is a blend of parasitism and scavenging, where the line between predator. In the shadowed underbrush of the Australian bush, something grotesque unfolds, a nightmarish tableau far removed from the serene images usually associated with wildlife. Here, a kangaroo limps through the gloom, its fur matted and stained with the raw evidence of a bizarre and violent natural affair, a horror story etched in flesh. This is no ordinary wound. It is a sprawling, festering hive, the result of an invasive bee infestation that has turned this once majestic marsupial into a walking emblem of nature's darker side. The sight is at once fascinating and repulsive, a living canvas of decay and biological chaos, challenging our notions of wilderness as a place untouched by suffering. This horrifying spectacle begins with the initial breach, a small puncture, almost imperceptible, through which a colony of bees has managed to infiltrate the kangaroo's skin. What follows is a slow, insidious invasion. The bees, voracious and relentless, construct their hive within the tissue itself, layering wax and honey deep inside the wound. This is not mere external parasitism. It's a total occupation, a hive embedded beneath flesh, swelling until the kangaroo's body becomes a grotesque carton of buzzing insects and seething infection. The surrounding skin is swollen and discolored, its natural pink supplanted by angry reds, ominous purples, and sickly yellows that suggest necrosis and bacterial overgrowth. Every inch of this unnatural growth emits a stench, a sour medley of rot, fermented nectar, and the unmistakable musk of dying flesh. A scent that lingers in the humid air and seems to whisper of biological revolution. Biologically, this phenomenon challenges the established roles within the ecosystem. Bees, typically known for their symbiotic relationship with flowering plants and their vital role in pollination, become agents of destruction. Their hive-building instinct, adapted perfectly for hollow trees, finds a nightmarish expression in organic soft tissue. The kangaroo's immune system mounts what defenses it can, but against a buzzing swarm